what the number one job of somebody that sold their soul in Hollywood is?
What?
Is to act like it didn't happen.
I said, who is that guy? So he called casting. They said, well, they kind of like lovers. I'm like, that's not going to work out. I'm not homophobic, but I have boundaries for me as a person.
And I see that they put every black man in the movies in a dress at some point in their career. I'll be connecting them down like, wow, all these brothers got to wear a dress. That's happened to me.
Is that something that, you wouldn't do, for
I definitely haven't ran into to put on the dress. I mean, you have to have boundaries.
And from the looks of it, the new pope is not Turkson. The new pope is 9-year-old Oscar nominee Pavensine Wallace.
Wow.
You've heard the rumors for years, the kind that slither through Hollywood like shadows after midnight. Stories that hint at careers fueled by something way darker than talent. Secrets so heavy they chain stars to rituals nobody dares to speak out loud. Tonight, we're drawing the lines that nobody else will connect. Why does Hollywood success sometimes feel like it comes out of nowhere? How do certain careers skyrocket overnight with no clear reason? It's suspicious, like there's a hidden exchange happening in the background, one that's not about skill or hard work, but about giving up something much deeper. And then, you've got Clifton Powell. He stood out because he wasn't just talking when he said he had limits, he meant it. While others whispered about the price of making it big, Powell actually showed what happens when you refuse to sign that invisible contract. His story doesn't just reveal resistance, it exposes the cost of saying no in a city where most people are too scared to even admit there's a cost at all.
Judging from my resume, I haven't turned down much. The thing that I want people to understand is a lot of the smaller movies that you see me in probably was a friend of mine or a producer who hired me when I had no money, or they come highly recommended. I've been offered some different types of roles that I didn't take. I did a TV series where they wanted me to play the neighborhood coon, and I walked off of that. But most of the time when I read a script, if I like it, I do it, I don't let when you get to a certain level, when you get to my level and above, your agents kind of tell you what to do. And I don't let anybody tell me what to do. I've worked my ass off, and I do what I want to do. Sometimes, like, say, for instance, I'm going to speak on this movie because I've caught a lot of flack for doing this movie, Women That Aren't Loosed. Now, how I got that role, and please, everybody that's listening, understand, I never read that script. Reuben Cannon, who put me in Selma, Lord Selma, he put me in Buffalo Soldiers, and he put me in Why Do Fools Fall in Love. He called me on a Thursday and said, hey, Cliff, I need you tomorrow for this role. My main actor dropped out. I need you. And I came in because that's one of my partners. And he hired me when I had nothing. He saw the talent. And so when I read the script, when I got to the set, and when I read the part about the little girl, I made them restructure that. I said, I don't think it's necessary for me to have to touch that little girl. Let's just close the door and we hear, maybe her scream or something. I'm not doing that. Now, on the flip side, I wouldn't have taken that role if I read the script, because I have a daughter and I know how that is perceived. But after we did the movie, we went around to a lot of places and had panel discussions to help women who have been physically, mentally, and spiritually. So something good came out of that, but that's not a role I would have picked for myself.
So they wanted you to play a neighborhood coon? Tell me more about that.
It was a TV series. It's a TV series called Simon on the WB. I think it was the WB network. I can't remember. But the week before the show came out, they were scanning all the new shows. And in the Ebony Junior magazine, they said Clifton Powell starring as the neighborhood coon in a new TV show called Simon. And so when I got there and they wanted me to do some coonish type things, I said I wasn't going to do it. So I met with the big white guy who ran the show and had about 7 shows on. And he basically said, I bet you will do this. He said, I bet you would do this movie if it was a William Friedkin film. Now, if anybody want to know who William Friedkin is, he directed The Exorcist. So basically he said, I bet you would do this role if it was a William Friedkin movie. I said, I bet you I wouldn't.
Powell's story cuts deeper once you feel the weight he was carrying. He got tossed into a role at the last minute after another actor backed out. No warning, no time to even study the script. Then, right there in black and white, he finds scenes clearly written to break him down and box him into something humiliating. His reaction? No careful diplomacy. He pushed back instantly. He demanded those parts be changed instead of letting Hollywood lock him into a role that would stamp his name with shame forever. But that wasn't the end, because the real showdown was still waiting, with even bigger stakes ready to crush him.
I got a audition maybe a year ago for Mr. Black. I don't think he read the script. So I read the script and I called him. I said, this guy, that's the gangster, he has this guy named Raphael or somebody hanging around the bar all the time. I said, who is that guy? So he called casting and he said, well, they kind of like lovers. I'm like, that's not going to work out. I'm not homophobic. I've gotten a lot of flack for saying something in the heat of the moment. I'm not homophobic, but I have no problems with transgender people or gay people. I don't care what color they are. I have no problems with, I'm not or racist or any of that. But I have boundaries for me as a person, which makes me uncomfortable or comfortable that I just don't cross. And it's not militant. It's just that certain things I'm just not comfortable with. I'm a man. I'm not comfortable with kissing a man, whether I got to do it for a role. I commend actors who can handle that inside of their psyche. I'm not wired that way. I've never seen a gay gangster, but I'm sure they have been. There was a guy out of DC named Wayne Perry he was a gangster, biggest killer in DC. I just read about him. I wouldn't play him because there's a scene where one guy walks in and sees him having with a man, and I'm not doing that. But they may come and say, man, but we needed a guy that's rough and tough and can play those rough and tough roles. I'm like, I'm not doing that. That's just me, So I don't necessarily, when I read something I don't like it, I don't give it a second thought. Just say I'm not doing it.
It wasn't just any job, it was a blockbuster role with a life-changing paycheck. We're talking millions on the table, the kind of money that locks in your future and flips your lifestyle overnight. The type of offer most people would grab without blinking. But Powell did the unthinkable. He walked away. The part demanded he cross lines he swore he'd never cross, and he refused, no matter how big the payout. While other actors bent the rules and skyrocketed into superstardom, Powell stood his ground. He calls it being handed out, but really, it was him holding the line when everyone else gave in.
Because I never came to Hollywood to be a star. I didn't have any plans to be in Hollywood. So nobody's going to force me to do anything. Nobody's going to dangle money in front of me to make me do anything. Mm-hmm. I'm my own person because it wasn't my passion, but also the way I was raised. I grew up in the 60s in the middle of, the civil rights movement and with, teachers who were Black militants and who were revolutionaries, and they instilled in me a certain level of pride. And, and that doesn't deter me. That doesn't make me better than anyone else. It's just that I have a standard for myself that you can't force me to do anything, whether it's, paying me $50 billion a day. It's just not going to work.
Powell's words cut right through the Hollywood illusion. He never showed up chasing stardom. He came in with pride, with principles, and with a backbone that money could never buy. Not even a wild, imaginary number like $50 billion a day could convince him to trade away what he believed in. His career wasn't limited because of talent. Everybody knows the man can act. The ceiling was put there because he refused to bow down in a system that rewards obedience and crushes anyone bold enough to resist. And that's what makes his stance so explosive. Because the machine behind Hollywood isn't just about casting calls and auditions. It's a system built to strip actors of their will. The so-called casting couch was never only about physical demands. It was psychological warfare. They search for weak spots, push buttons, and keep grinding until a person's resistance breaks. But Powell didn't bend, and that's why his fight stands out even louder.
I used to work at the swap meet. I used to work at Covenant House. I used to do clerical work. I used to do phone sales. I just never quit, okay? So when we talk about adversity, if this is your passion, don't quit.
So your empty top is all right then.
Shut up.
Get to that.
Shut up. No.
That's what I'm not making.
That's what I'm saying. Because I want to clean that adversity thing up because it's very important about what choices people make to think they're going to make it,
Okay.
which rolls into your way to the top.
Okay.
It's no such thing as your way to the top.
Really?
Yeah.
Me
If
call
you,
Mariah Carey.
if you don't,
Madonna.
if you don't have any talent at some point you're gonna hit a wall. There's an article, and I can't think of the white girl's name, but she slept with all the heads of the couple of heads.
Marilyn Monroe?
No, not Marilyn Monroe. But no. This is a true story.
Mm-hmm.
And she was dealing with some of the big executives. And what happened was they promised her all this, but because of the chain of command, they couldn't just come in and say, I know this Pierre's show, but yo, she been to be a star. They were like, hold on, man, wait a minute. You can't just do that as an exec and call the network and say, yo, old girl about to be a star. So she's suing all ahead of those guys because she thought she could work her way to the top.
But some people have their way to the top. Come on, Clifton, we have the family here, bro.
I'm just being real with you.
I am too.
I believe that there's no such thing as your way to the top. Now, can you position yourself to move in a different way? No, I think, no, listen what I'm saying. Because this is what I teach. And I get female students who, like my girl's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to hit a wall where you're going to get challenged.
Powell rips the mask off Hollywood's darkest shortcut. Trading intimacy for opportunity doesn't just stain your dignity. It locks you into a trap you can never fully escape. The industry keeps receipts, turning private moments into permanent leverage that hangs over your head like a shadow. Sure, those favors might swing a door open, but the price is brutal. You stop being seen as a real person and start being treated like property. Every scandal becomes a chain, every secret becomes a weapon, and the control never ends.
When you're struggling and then you finally make it, and some of your people that got their people, you got to go in, man. And go in and get 10,000 for 2 days, or I get 10,000 a day. That's good money. And I'm not Denzel Washington. I still make a lot of money, but I'm not Denzel Washington. I made it to the middle. The middle is a great place to be, but to make it to the top is a whole lot of other stuff that I'm not going to discuss on here that comes with that I'm not willing to do. So I'm healthy, happy and healthy in the middle. If I don't leave my house, I'll make $150,000 just from my pension, my wealth, my residuals, and my Social Security. So I'm good. I made it. I'm not bragging. I'm blessed. But I have a guy named Keith Neal that's in the middle, and he handles all the independent stuff. I never want to get to a place where my people can't reach me. And so I keep him in the middle. And then some stuff my agent brings, sometimes stuff my manager brings. I pay sometimes out 30%. My manager gets something, Keith will get something, or my agent will get something. I move, and I have so many relationships. I made it to the middle. The top is another whole set of stuff that you got to deal with on every level that I'm not willing to do. So, and they don't let strong Kunta Kinte like me get to the top. It just doesn't happen without some compromise, and I'm not willing to do that.
This is how the system locks struggling actors in a chokehold. When you're broke and desperate, the pressure comes fast. Take the role, swallow the compromise just for the paycheck. That's how they pull people in and keep them trapped. But Powell didn't play their game. He carved his own lane. Instead of relying on shady agents who could twist deals or push actors into roles that wrecked their image, he built his own connections. He found a way to work without letting Hollywood's traps box him in.
Whatever your preference is, I don't really care, but I don't think you can block people. I think the problem with the casting couch is that if you don't do it, you ain't gonna do the role. I think that's really horrible to put on someone. Like, come in my office and have with me, and then I'll give you the role. If you come in casting and you get the role on your own merit, and you run into me at a restaurant and you want to go out, and if I'm not married or if I'm whatever and I'm available, I think that can work. That works all the time in this business. But for me to say to you as a beautiful female, if you don't have to me on this couch right here, you ain't getting the role. And I think that's wrong. And I'm gonna always say so. I know I'm gonna get a lot of feedback out there, but I'm just telling you the truth. Anybody that blocks you from something to try to force you into making a decision because you need money or you want to be famous, I just think that's wrong.
Powell's moral clarity slices right through Hollywood's excuses. No smooth talk, no sugarcoating. He calls it what it is. Forcing someone into intimate acts just to land a role, especially by preying on their weak spots, is flat out wrong. No debates, no exceptions. Forget that's just how the business works excuse. It's not business, it's exploitation. And Powell never let those twisted rationalizations slide, not for a second.
I just got my first residual check. It was more than $25,000. So Will Packer put me in that movie. Will Packer called me again. I'm going to work with Will Packer. If my agents don't like it, I'm still going to do it. So people don't understand the inner workings of this business. When you with APA and above, they're ready for you to cross over. That's why Motown crossed Diana and all of them. First they was at the Apollo, then he got them at the big white clubs because they try to cross you over.
Powell's philosophy is ironclad. He stands on what's right no matter what it costs him. When people tried to corner him with setups, he spotted the traps instantly and shut them down before they could take him out. Meanwhile, the actors who reached the highest levels of fame, too often they were the ones willing to hand over their boundaries piece by piece. Powell's career shows the brutal truth. Integrity in Hollywood can drain your pockets, but selling your soul drains something money can never replace. And here's where it gets even darker. At the core of Hollywood's strangest rituals hides something that looks harmless on the surface, like comedy, like entertainment. But once you really study the pattern, it mutates into something sinister. This isn't about art at all. It's about psychological warfare dressed up as creativity. Dave Chappelle didn't just notice this, he called it out, and he refused to play along. His words echo because they exposed the game in plain sight. When he said that every black man in Hollywood gets pushed into a dress sooner or later, he wasn't joking about freedom of expression. He was exposing a deliberate, chilling strategy.
I mean, I'm a conspiracy theorist to a degree. Like when I connect dots that maybe shouldn't be connected, I don't know. But certain dots, like when I see that they put every black man in the movies in a dress at some point in their career, I'll be connecting them down like, wow, all these brothers gotta wear a dress. That's happened to me. I'm doing a movie with Martin.
Yeah.
The movie's going good. So I walk in a trailer. I'm like, man, this must be the wrong trailer because there's a dress in here. They come in. The writer comes in. I think he's the writer. He's like, Dave, listen, we got this hilarious scene where Martin's sneaking out of jail. So he disguises you as a prostitute. And he put this dress on and, what? This prostitute? No, I'm not doing that. I don't feel comfortable with that. That should have been in the discussion. What? You don't feel comfortable with it? I mean, it's a hilarious bit. All the greats have done it. So, well, if all the greats have done it, it's kind of hacky, right? You're right. So why don't we just not do it? Because I don't feel comfortable wearing a dress. Oh, come on, Dave. Listen, we got it all set up. We're supposed to shoot. Every minute you waste costs this much money. No, the pressure comes in. He said, I'm not wearing no dress, man. I'm funnier than a dress. Just give me something funny to say. I don't need to wear no dress to be funny. What am I, Milton Berle? You know, we're going like this. And then finally he's like, and he leaves. And then like the director comes, Dave, it really would be great if you wear the dress. What is wrong? What is this, Brokeback Mountain in here? So, you know, wear the dress. I don't want to wear the dress. I want to wear this dress. You know what I mean? This is, oh gosh, it's so difficult. They leave. Now the producers comes, come on, David, would be so great. I mean, and then I started thinking about it. All the comics that I've seen, man, you know, strong brothers, why they be putting us in these dresses? But the minute it was clear, I was adamant, I'm not wearing a dress. I'm not wearing the dress. All right, fine. Think of something else. That comes back 10 minutes later, the whole new scene. How did you write the scene so fast? You know, it's like, so you gotta take a step.
Chappelle pulled the curtain back, exposing the whole dress routine as more than just a gag. It's a calculated tactic. Hollywood uses it like a weapon, a systematic move designed to corner actors and chip away at their resistance until they give in. And the moment he said it out loud, notice what happened. They stamped him with the conspiracy theorist label. That's not random. That's the industry's defense system kicking in, protecting the ritual from being dragged into the light. But here's the real question. What happens when you refuse the ceremony? What price do you pay for saying no to Hollywood's twisted initiation?
You disappeared for a while. People were saying, where's Dave? Where's Dave Chappelle? Where's he going? And then it turns out you took a trip to Africa. Is that true?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they said.
Right.
It was
because
like,
the stories, as you know, you're hearing all kinds of stuff on the news.
It was crazy, man. I mean, first I went to Africa to chill, and I tell you, you hear a lot of black people say this, like when you go to Africa, especially your first time, you have this overwhelming feeling like you're home, which is true. I had that feeling like, man, this feels like home. I think I felt that way because there's a McDonald's in the airport. So I got my Big Mac. But then it was like, it just got out of control. Like I was in Africa, and next thing I know, I started hearing all the stories like comedian Dave Chappelle's in a mental institution in South Africa. And I was like, man, I must be losing my mind.
Yeah.
Because I thought this was the beach. Yeah. And everybody calls me crazy. You know, I mean, it was just...
You're hearing on the news things like he's gone crazy, which that didn't sound right, you know? And
well, you know, maybe I know stuff people don't want me to talk about. So we're going to what other people believe. So they'll call me crazy. But it was a weird thing to get called crazy. At first it was scary. And then now I feel like it's liberating. Like, I feel free, like I can just say what I want to do what I want. They already call me crazy. I can't hold myself accountable for these things. I'm crazy. I can't be held responsible. Yeah. Couldn't control myself. Yeah.
Chappelle didn't just talk, he took action. He turned his back on $50 million and left for Africa just to break free from the suffocating pressure. And what did society do? They slapped him with the mentally unstable label, twisting his refusal to play along into some kind of breakdown. The message was loud and clear. If you resist ritual humiliation, they'll flip the script and call you crazy while making submission look like the only normal choice. That's why the dress requirement can't be brushed off as random comedy. It's systematic. It's not about creative freedom. It's conditioning, pure and simple. The industry uses it to weed out anyone with too much backbone, ensuring that only the most compliant personalities get the green light for mainstream success. Just look at Kevin Hart's path. His career is a textbook case of how the pressure grinds people down. He went from setting boundaries and standing defiant to playing along and performing exactly how Hollywood wanted. His shift shows the machinery working in real time.
Is that something that, you know, you wouldn't do, you know, for...
I definitely haven't ran into to put on the dress. I mean, you know, you have to have boundaries. You have to have limits that you refuse to cross. You know, for me, I know what they are. They've yet to been challenged, so you know, I don't have to speak on them. I was asked to dribble a basketball on the talk show this morning. I said no to that. Not that was a dress, but I was like, no, I'm gonna look stupid. You know, at the end of the day, you got to know that you're a brand. Yeah. I'm a brand. You need to protect your brand at all times. When things happen that can possibly affect your brand, your brand can be diminished, and you don't want that to happen. So, you know, protecting my brand is definitely a priority.
Hart's first stance was solid as stone. He swore he'd never wear a dress, no matter how much cash they waved in his face. He said protecting his brand mattered more than any check, and it wasn't some offhand comment. This was a man carving a line in permanent ink, daring Hollywood to cross it. But the machine doesn't let up. The pressure is constant, heavy, and calculated, pushing, prodding, circling back until even the strongest walls start to crack. In Hollywood, resistance isn't just tested, it's hunted.
You know what? I was actually one of those comedians that said, no, I wouldn't wear a dress. There's no way I would wear a dress. And then when proposed with the opportunity of what I felt was funny, I said, oh, that's funny, I'm gonna do it. Oh, Kwanzaa is relevant. Yeah, that's funny. She's small. I can do the whole thing. It'll be funny. I think now, knowing about the opportunities that can be thrown at you, it's all about choice. You know, nobody makes you do anything. Nobody says this is what you got to do. This is the only way that you're going to do it. Nobody made Martin put on the dress in Big Mama's house. Nobody made Tyler Perry put on the dress as Madea. Nobody made Jamie Foxx put on the dress as Wanda, and nobody made Martin do it as Shanae. You know, it was a choice. And on Saturday Night Live, you know, it was a choice that I made. So I think it's all about your pick of what's funny to you and what you feel would be funny to others. And I will say that's the knowledge that I now have and understand. But from the outside looking in, you always go, oh, I ain't gonna do it. Ain't no way. Why? Why I gotta do it? I ain't gonna compromise myself. For what? I am who I am. But then you're in a movie, and then it calls for a funny scene. Hey, what if you went in this way? And if it's actually funny, it's funny. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think funny is funny. You can't put rules and regulations.
Now listen to Hart's reasoning after he finally wore the dress on SNL. He brushed it off, said it was just comedy, said nobody made him do it. But that's not conviction. That's Stockholm Syndrome talking. That's the victim defending the very system that cornered and broke him down. His journey lays it out step by step. First came defiance, then came submission, and finally the rationalization, where he turned around and justified the very ritual he once swore he'd never touch. And what happened after? His career exploded. The machine rewarded him exactly how it was built to: comply with the humiliation, get the advancement. It's a transaction dressed up as opportunity, and the rules couldn't be clearer. Stand tall like Clifton Powell or Dave Chappelle, and you'll still shine, but they'll cap your reach. Give in like Hart, and the floodgates of fame swing wide open. That's the twisted math of Hollywood. The rituals aren't random. They're a system that doesn't just want your talent, it wants your very identity. The dress isn't just fabric, it's a flag of surrender, waved in front of the world so the industry knows they own you. And the reward for playing along? Riches beyond imagination, a lifestyle most dream about, but chained to a cost that no paycheck can erase. So here's the haunting question: what's really worth it? Is success still success if it demands your soul on the bargaining table? And in a world where humiliation is the currency of advancement, who walks away as the true winners? The ones who bend or the ones who refuse to bow?